And joining me now with a wrap up for all things City Council is our Mayor, Bernadette Clement. Welcome back to the show, Madam Mayor.
Hello?
All right, so obviously the hot topic last night was the new bylaw for open air burning. I think, as you alluded to in the media, it's a solution that maybe won't please everybody, but it's common ground.
It is, and it's been a very difficult topic. And if we go back in the history of this, you know that last year, the fire department and administration brought forward a fire ban. And, you know, we did that and then didn't have proper consultation. So we had to press pause, go back and do community consultation. So I think that we've learned from this. But this is also an issue that has divided council. Council votes are not always unanimous. Everybody knows that. But this one particularly divided us. What I have to say, though, is that it didn't, I think, divide us, on a personal level. I think that the discussion was respectful. We disagreed, very much so. It was a very close vote. But certainly those of us who voted for the ban were doing so, I think, and I'll speak for myself here, doing so because we needed to have something in place. Relying on just the provincial law was not appropriate for our community, not appropriate from an enforcement penalty perspective. So it was important to get something in place. Now we need to educate people around open air burning, and we're hoping that people are going to be doing so much more responsibly than what they have been doing in the past years.
All right, and when you talk on that and education, let's get into a little bit into the specifics of the bylaw and some of the changes that were made, which include the size of the fire, which is now limited to pretty well 2.5 feet either way, I believe.
Yeah. So 45 centimeters, and so that is important to note. People were having fires that people could see over fences and over bushes, and you can't have that type of fire. So it really is about limiting the size of the fire, limiting also what it is that you can burn. You know, we have to be specific. You can't just burn anything. You can't burn noxious things that are going to cause noxious smoke. Also, there's a 7.5 meter limit as well. And so that was a big part of the discussion last night.
Absolutely, and another aspect of that will be, of course, the ability for neighbors, of course, to complain. I think I read that one councillor stated, there's not going to be, a task force going out looking for fires, but it will be up to people to sort of report if they are, if there is something not apropos or not kosher going on. So maybe we talk a little bit about that and how people can kind of make those reports if they need to.
Sure. So what we were finding before this whole discussion about a fire ban is that a lot of people were burning fires without permits. A lot of people were, I have a great neighbor, Dennis, who, was doing things the right way, but not everybody was. So now we're going to have to do education because we want people to understand when it is that they should be complaining to our fire department. Because once they have an understanding of what those rules are, they should do so. And by the way, even if somebody has a permit, if they're not following the rules, then the neighbors should be calling. And that's how we want to understand what people are doing in our community. And that's how we want to proceed with enforcement, right? Is to have neighbors letting us know how other neighbors are behaving in the community. Now, I know that's hard to do. I know that I've had calls and conversations with people who feel intimidated by the process. So again, we're going to have to do a lot of educating around that people who complain are going to be well received by the fire department, that the fire department is going to take a look at making sure that people who are burning fires not only have a permit, but are also following the rules within the bylaw.
All right, and moving on through the meeting now, we know that many of our viewers have probably been following the news from the site on McConnell Avenue, where there's still a lot of not sure what's exactly going on, but council did receive an update on the situation at that site.
Yes, so it was very important to have this discussion in a public meeting. It's important that the public understands what it is that the city is working on. And this file has been of concern because we were concerned about the residents living there. Our understanding is the residents that are living there are particularly vulnerable for many different reasons. And we just want to make sure that everything is appropriate. And the number one thing is the vital services bylaw. So we talked last night about when that is activated. And that is activated when a landlord or an owner is not paying for vital services. So if Cornwall Electric or if a heating company is going to be shutting off a service because the landlord hasn't paid, then there's a notice that goes to the city under the vital services bylaw, and the city steps in to make sure that the residents of that building continue to receive that vital service. So we've been called in a couple of times now under that vital services bylaw. And this is what we wanted to talk about the fact that, you know, the city had to look into that and has to make sure that the people there are safely housed and getting all of the vital services that are required for safe shelter.
Absolutely. And finally, we did have a second quarter financial update as well, which is normally something that kind of just passes by in a council meeting. But given COVID-19, of course, there's a lot more scrutiny in terms of where our budget situation is right now.
And you know what, Gabe, that's as it should be. There has to be that scrutiny. It is a very difficult time. So last night's report is incredibly detailed. I suggest to viewers that they go online and look at it. As residents, as taxpayers, you have a right to know how we've been weathering this COVID storm and the challenges that lie ahead, right? So we've maybe saved some money in terms of staffing and not being fully staffed or not recruiting where we should have been or could have been. But at the same time, we've lost a lot of revenues. So this report talks about the losses of those revenues. And you know, talks about the challenges that we're going to see in the future. Overall, though, we've weathered it pretty well. I'm not saying that it's done or that we know completely how this year is going to go at the end, but the city has been doing its due diligence. And above all, we're transparent. We're trying to let people know what the challenges are, and we're still trying to figure out how to move forward. Some projects may need to be canceled. So these are discussions that we're going to have with administration around the council table. So I invite residents to stay tuned. This is really about our community and about our dollars, their money. And I want to make sure that they have full access to information and that we're getting good feedback from residents as we go forward. This is something we've never gone through. And as the saying goes, we're going through it together. And the important part about being together is that everybody has full information.
Absolutely, and as you alluded to, of course, Cornwall.ca is a great resource to have in order to see reports such as that and really keep an eye on what's going on in the city. On that note, Madam Mayor, thank you so much for joining me for this week's update.
No, thank you to your TV.